No one no tribal division. All we want for see vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. See the end they say vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. See the end they say all we want for see vote without violence. All we want for see, all we want for see vote without violence.
To maintaining democratic stability. The mission further prefers the following preliminary recommendations for consideration in improving future electoral processes. The government should put in place measures to ensure the peace and the stability of the country to safeguard the security of all citizens. The ECSL adopts continuous improvement and transparency in engaging stakeholders to avoid mistrust and enhance confidence in the electoral process, and should pursue continuous communications. Provide a comprehensive voter register data to allow for targeted interventions in the electoral processes to improve participation. Provide the gazetted list of candidates before official campaigns session to allow them sufficient time to campaign. The ECSL to make provisions for early voting for ECSL staff, media, and security personnel working on the election day. Political parties should refrain from violence, hate speech, and any other acts like early announcing of victory that could undermine the stability of the country and also credibility of the electoral management body. Channel electoral disputes through the legally instituted mechanisms under the law of Sierra Leone. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Maria Joseph Bush, Head of the Secretary of the Legislature. While we transfer the mic to His Excellency, Professor Ecowas, ECON, Head of the Commonwealth of the Legislature, I would want to announce that after His Excellency Professor Ecowas presents his declaration, the press will be allowed to ask questions to members of the High Table. But the press would have to also identify themselves, the organ that they represent, and be brief and concise so that we can take many questions. Your Excellency, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to you, media, fellow observers, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming to this press conference. I'll present the interim obligations of the Commonwealth Observatory on the electoral process. The final report setting out our full findings on the entire process and our recommendations will be submitted to the Commonwealth Secretary General and then subsequently for publication. The Commonwealth is honored to have been invited by the Electoral Commission for Sierra Leone to observe these elections. Allow me to recall my remarks at our arrival press conference, noting that the Commonwealth has been an enduring companion of this nation on its extraordinary journey since independence, witnessing the country's evolution into what it is today. The Commonwealth family continues to stand in solidarity with Sierra Leone in these elections, noting that these elections were the first to be held against the background of some significant changes, including, among others, the introduction of the district block proportional representation system, gender quotas for nomination of candidates, and a shortened period in which to conduct election petitions and in which to conduct elections. The participation of political party leaders and the flag bearers in the election pledge that was facilitated by the Commonwealth held on the 25th to a common interest in free, fair, and peaceful elections. I commend all involved in the electoral process, especially on election day, for demonstrating their abiding commitment to this democratic spirit. It has indeed been an honor for us to be a part of this important process. Our group was constituted by the Commonwealth Secretary General, the Right Honourable Patricia Scotland KC. It comprises experts drawn from various sectors, including political, legal, media, civil society, and electoral bodies from several Commonwealth regions. We arrived in Sierra Leone on the 17th June 2023. On 22nd June, we deployed our teams across the country to observe the electoral environment to gain a comprehensive picture of pre-election day preparation. Prior to our deployment to the regions, we were briefed in Freetown by various stakeholders, including the Electoral Commission for Sierra Leone, presidential and mayoral candidates, representatives of political parties, media professionals, the Independent Media Commission, youth organizations, women's forums, representatives of persons with disabilities, security agencies, Commonwealth High Commissioners, the Judiciary, Human Rights Commission of Sierra Leone Bar Association, the Chamber of Commerce, Sierra Leone Labour Congress, and various civil society organizations. We also established working relationships and exchanged information with other international observers as well as local citizen observers. Key findings. We were impressed by the significant turnout of voters and the largely peaceful conduct of elections, a testimony to the will of the people to consolidate the democratic gains of Sierra Leone. Prior to Election Day, the Electoral Commission for Sierra Leone had provided various assurances of its preparedness and readiness to conduct elections as scheduled. While we commend the Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone for managing a largely peaceful election day, we noted reported communication and transparency challenges and some mistrust in the Electoral Commission and other key state institutions, including the judiciary. We note with concern cases of delays in the start of voting, largely due to the late arrival of voter registers, ballot papers, and other sensitive materials. Unfortunately, there were isolated incidents of skirmishes, police arrests, attacks on polling officers and political party agents, and harassment in some cases of law enforcement officers. The legal and electoral framework. We commend the 2022 review and enactment of the Public Elections Act and the enactment of the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Act, voter registration. We note the concerns about the 2021 midterm census and the updated voter register. We will address this issue further in our final report. Voter education, communication, and outreach. We note concerns about insufficient communication by the Electoral Commission and recommend that the Commission considers training for all its staff to enhance the strategic communication capabilities, transparency, and accountability. The campaign. In various briefings, the group learned that campaigns were colorful, well-attended, and robust. However, there were restrictions to campaigning in some districts. Media. We observed that the media was largely free to operate in the lead-up to the elections and on election day. Media regulations and codes of conduct were generally adhered to. However, misinformation and disinformation proliferated across social media. We commend the efforts made by platforms such as iVerify as well as the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists to address some of these challenges. Election day. The environment on election day was largely peaceful, though the group noted some isolated incidents. Early voting. We noted that early voting was arranged on the 15th of June 2023 for security personnel who were scheduled to work on election day, and that the announcement was made just 24 hours prior to the early voting. and there were reports that the list of early voters was not provided to political parties prior to the voting. Pre-poll procedures and opening of polls. On the morning of election day, pre-polling procedures and checks were followed, but not uniformly applied by polling staff. On election day, there were several logistical challenges, most notably the late arrival and non-delivery in some cases of both sensitive and non-sensitive materials. We noted that the Electoral Commission allowed polling staff to grant pro rata time extensions in some cases where the opening of polls were delayed. It's recommended that the Electoral Commission review its logistical arrangement for the distribution of materials on the eve of election day. Polling officials and security personnel should be present at safe, conducive locations the night before to receive materials and to ensure readiness for opening on time at the various centers. Conduct of polls. Electoral staff were generally professional, transparent, conciliatory, and for the most part managed conflicts well. There were a few inconsistencies. Some of these include poor queue management and inadequate signage in some cases. We acknowledge that the Electoral Commission made provision for voter verification, allowing voters without voter IDs to present alternatives in accordance with stipulated guidelines. In some cases, in spite of being in possession of alternative identification as prescribed by the Electoral Commission, some voters still face difficulties in being allowed to vote. The inking process after voting was in some cases applied inconsistently. Polling staff did not always communicate effectively, especially in their interactions with party agents. We recommend additional training for polling staff to minimize such anomalies in the future. Polling station setup and infrastructure. The location of polling stations, mainly in schools or in open spaces, necessitated adequate signage. Some voters struggled to identify their polling stations, while the Electoral Commission has made provision for the size of polling centers to be capped at a maximum of 300 voters. There were nevertheless serious space constraints at some of the polling centers that our observers visited. Party agents and polling staff did not have adequate uniforms and identifiers, badges and name tags. In most cases, there was poor lighting by evening, and the voting centers often did not have electricity. The Electoral Commission should review its protocols to ensure that it provides basic facilities for voters and polling staff at polling centers, although we note that solar lamps was provided for many of the agents at several polling stations. Participation and inclusion. Women and youth were evident in large numbers among voters and polling staff, and were unhindered in their ability to cast their ballot. However, the senior supervisory roles of polling center managers and presiding officers were largely undertaken by men. Priority voting and persons with disabilities. Generally, persons with disabilities, pregnant and lactating women, and senior citizens were accorded priority voting. There were tactile ballot units for persons with disabilities in some stations, but there were variations in access provided for persons with disabilities. Party agents. Party agents, though varied in numbers and representation, were present, punctual, and vigilant in all polling stations and handling centers voted. There were isolated cases of agitation or dissatisfaction, or disputes were largely resolved satisfactorily with polling staff. The police and military had cooperated under the leadership of the National Security Coordinator and the police to ensure overall security on election day. Observer missions. We would like to express our appreciation to all international and local observers who met on election day for their cooperation and exchange of views. Situation rooms. As chairperson of our group, I have the opportunity to visit a number of civil society situation groups, including that of the National Election Board, Eminent Women Peace Mediators, the West African Network for Peace Building, WANEP, the Independent Commission for Peace and National Cohesion, and the Human Rights Commission of Sierra Leone. These initiatives enhance transparency and provide a national perspective on key data emerging from the electoral process. Closing and counting. Counting proceeded smoothly and procedures were largely followed, and those who were in the queue when polls closed were allowed to vote. Polling staff undertaking the count were clear and methodical, and any disputes were generally settled amicably. The Electoral Commission, its polling staff and party agents are to be commended for this. The tallying process. While we're still observing this process and will provide a thorough assessment in our final report, we note with concern reports of the lack of clarity around the actual procedure for tallying, leading to charges of lack of transparency. We noted with concern statements made by some political parties also preempting official results announcements by the Electoral Commission. We recommend that results at the polling station level be published to allow for cross-verification by party agents of all political parties. We urge all to continue providing their commitment to the electoral pledge with the same spirit of national unity, peace and solidarity. Finally, a few of our recommendations. Our full report of container are more detailed and other recommendations. We recommend that results at the polling station level be published to allow for cross-verification by party agents of all political parties, their leaders and supporters. We urge the Electoral Commission to exercise maximum transparency in the days ahead as its staff finalizes the tabulation of votes and prepare to release final results. We also recommend that results at the polling station level be published to allow for proper verification by party agents. We urge the Electoral Commission to conduct a thorough post-election review at a suitable time, and also encourage consideration for the establishment of appropriate domestic mechanisms to take up recommendations offered by our group and other observer groups. We'd like to express our appreciation to all stakeholders with whom the group interacted throughout our time in Sierra Leone. It's our hope that Sierra Leone will continue to serve as an inspiration for the region, the Commonwealth, and indeed for the rest of the world, as a model of post-conflict nation, placing national development and the aspiration of its citizens above all else. It was a special honor for me and my team to be in Sierra Leone at this important time, and we express our appreciation for your hospitality. We trust that our work will contribute to the strengthening of democracy, good governance, and the rule of law in Sierra Leone. God bless the Republic of Sierra Leone.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for this I really appreciate the three explanation once more for the declaration. Kindly, a round of applause for it. Thank you. We will now open the question and answer session, and we would want to set some rules for members of the media, please, to follow. Kindly introduce yourself and the media and the representative. Kindly go direct to the point. No beating around the bush. Kindly be brief and concise. Please, no repetition. If one question is answered and dealt with, you don't need to come back to it. But before we open the session, Your Excellency's submission, dear observers, you may notice the absence of Ambassador Abdul was left Sierra Leone this morning. The Commissioner for Political Affairs is security. He's left not by his willing, but by force of nature. He lost his elder sister. So So before we open the session, I would want us to observe a minute of silence. We can sit down where we are. Just observe a minute of silence, please. Thank you very much. May I so invest in perfect peace. Now, members of the media, you can please step forward and ask your question. We'll take a list of 5 minutes first. And then see whether we can continue. Kindly grab your mic, please.
Okay, my name is Charles. I work for the Nigerian Election Authority. My question is, before the election week, we heard that there was an app developed for relaying election results. I don't know why we're out there monitoring and observing the elections. Can you confirm to us the mode of transmission of results and the state of position right now? Thank you.
Thank you very much for being short and concise.
Thank you. My name is Kemo Chang. I work for Manual Reporters, which is local. I also report for the Nation Media Group of Kenya and the Associated Press. My question is for the Prime Minister. If all of you can throw in 1 or 2 words, okay, but specifically for you, you concluded your statement by advising any aggrieved party to seek redress through the laws. And in your report, you also cited mistrust, general mistrust for the Electoral Commission, which we realize also for almost every state institution. In that kind of situation, I'd like to know what kind of word of courage you have for whoever emerged as an aggrieved party to seek redress. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other one?
Yes.
Step forward, please. Okay. My name is my name is Abu S. Karoli. I'm a freelance journalist and former information officer for the United Nations in Sierra Leone. And of course, I know lots of things that has happened. My question is, now we have seen the irregularities of the Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone, U.S. observers, based on international law. We have seen lapses that occurred that day during the elections. So I just want to see the kind of credibility that you have on the Electoral Commission to give the right pronouncement of who won this election. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry to ask you, Madam. My question is, what would be your message? What would be your message to the youth inside and also to the youth inside before you leave us? That's one. Another one again, do you have any plans at least to meet with all the political parties and say hello before you leave us, especially when it comes to peace, stability, and also cohesion? Thank you very much.
Okay, what's the sub-question to allow the explanation to respond? And then immediately we take another set of questions.
Thank you very much, members of the press and media. Because one of the questions was directly addressed to the AU, election observation mission, I will start first, and then my colleagues might proceed on the others. In the first place, these institutions are established by the sovereign state, with its parliament endorsing that. None of us here in the election observation mission has the right to undermine the institutions which are established by the Sierra Leonean legal entities. So I think we have to understand that you might have some opinion on that, but we cannot undermine these legally instituted institutions of the country. So that is where mistakes are usually being done. What else are you going to use if you don't use the legal institutions? It means you are going to use force. So we have to avoid by all means any stakeholder, any party in this election has to use legal means. No, therefore, in the first place, if you have mistrust on the Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone, it all means all the exercises we have made so far is futile. So whom are you going to trust to announce the result? We are waiting to the announcement of the result from this organization, isn't it? So if that's the case, then if there are anything that has to be improved in the process and working procedures of this institution, we are here to recommend. But we are not monitors, we are observers. We only observe and report. We are not here to monitor the institutions of a sovereign state of Sierra Leone. So I think that has to be very clear. Some people confuse between observation and monitoring. So if we have to come with a conclusion of such a magnitude, then we need to monitor for a long period of time and also be given that mandate. But we are not given that mandate. Our mandate is to observe this election and report whatever we have seen in the process. So we have clear respect that in most of the polling stations, all our observers employed has brought the report which we have reported just now. So I think this is where we have to begin with. Yes, there are political party stations, but we have to look into some years ago, Sierra Leone was a failed state. And there is, as far as we are concerned, Sierra Leone has moved slowly but positively into a democratic course. So a country torn by a civil war has now moved from there to have elections monitored by the United Nations for some time, but then became independently administering its election for the last three elections, which is still, the experience is very fledgling, and it is not yet reaching to the stage of maturity. Even in countries which has got 200 years of democracy, they are still fighting. So I think we have to appreciate what the people of Sierra Leone has done so far. And then we have to also see even all the parties involved in this election has to appreciate the progresses that this country has made and try to support this process to reach to a point where democracy much more being matured and prevailing in the country. That's, I think, the background that we are observing this election. So I think we shouldn't be emotional, but we should be rational in assessing the process of democratization in Sierra Leone. I think this is what I can say at this moment. Let me focus on the message. The message is, we call upon the people of Sierra Leone in the first place that they have to keep and adhere to the peaceful nature of this election that has begun during the election day up to the end of the process. This is very important. None of our young people die because of incitement and because of provocation in terms of ethnic lines, which I know from my own country's experience, that mobilization of politics along ethnic line is a dangerous course where you can kill the young people but never improve the country's future. So please keep tolerant, as the culture as we have been informed, as the culture in Sierra Leone there is intermarriage between ethnic groups, there is intermarriage between religious groups, and there is tolerance in Sierra Leone, and that culture should override the incitement that social media brings to the chaos in the country. So please keep calm until the result is announced. We recommended that political parties also should refrain from announcing results. The results are not used political parties, it is the people's. So the people's result, you have to wait for the legal institution, the Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone announces. Until then, everybody has to remain calm and refrain from any incitement for violence. So this is the clear message we are passing. As Africans, we have that responsibility, and we need this to happen in Sierra Leone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We take another round, and before we conclude, let's come this way.
As we have a very high temperature, we want to know what are your views and position as to the many inadequacies in these June 23rd polls. Many registered voters were denied access to vote on polling, even though the Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone assured all that all registered voters will vote with some identified person cards. Later, a lot of sensitive materials. So people are increasingly the world that all of these inadequacies will militate against them or their favor choices. So just want to know what's the name of the observation of the question.
Yes, please. Next question. Very significant observation from the Ecowas, the AU, and the Commonwealth. One is that the late starting of voting. Two, the peaceful process of the election. And three is about how the voters conducted themselves in voting. Can I ask this question? Is this a norm in Africa setting with regards to voting? What can you do or do with regarding ensuring the voting process always commence in time to give periodic access to voters in terms of reduce the acclimatization from their contribution in terms of voting? In few hours earlier, we have a provincial result from the Commissioner of the ECSL announcing 60% of voters turnout. This result is making a lot of rumors around the country presently. With the turnout of votes that you observed, what have you to say with the announcement from the ECSL Commissioner? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Share Nigeria Media, a UK-based media institution. My question for the observers, the process is done. As far as we are concerned, this is the critical stage because everyone is anxious about the outcome of the results. Now observers are going, and what if a certain political party disagree with the result? Is there something that the observers will recommend to institutions that you're part of, because Sierra Leone is the member state of every institution here, in case things go sideways, which we are not hoping for? What will be the response from state and the institutions here? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, information to report.
Thank you very much. I think on the issue of the inadequate it tends to slow down the process in the beginning. Unfortunately, I have witnessed it in too many countries. It's probably down likely to point forecasting and planning ahead of this processes. And here, I was surprised that these logistical Freetown. One would normally expect that they be in places far out of Freetown, but they were there. So these are issues that need to be taken note of, and proper planning done so that subsequent processes will see improvement. It's not excusable, and I think that it's a challenge for the Electoral Commission and hopefully for all other stakeholders to improve on this process. But having said that, what our observers who went out into the field, and we ourselves, I mean, we were in Freetown. I went to a number of polling stations not far from here, Aberdeen, Wellington, and I was struck to see that despite the late start of the polling, of the voting, that at 5 o'clock, and that seems to have been the trend. I would refer you also to the local civil society organizations that observe the process, especially news, which feel that observe the process, especially news, which feel that nearly 6,000 observers, so many more observers than any of us did, or even all of our observers combined. And they report similar trends. So I think it would be helpful to compare our report, our observations, with what the local civil society organizations have reported on this issue. We are here for a time set, and we will obviously leave soon after this process comes to an end, that is the electoral process. But I can only echo what Prime Minister has said. You have national institutions, constitutional institutions, but also some informal institutions which have been very active during this period, mediating and engaging in working for national cohesion and inter-party dialogue. I'm referring, of course, to the Interreligious Council, other similar bodies of councils of elders, and the National Peace Council. All of this to continue their work to help to reconcile this country, especially the political parties and the political activists. Campaign periods are usually quite divisive. They're very competitive, they can get very emotional, so it's to be expected that the social fabric may be frayed after this very hectic campaign period. So I think we will hope that the National Peace Council and the Interfaith and the Interreligious Council and others will step in. It's work they are doing already, which we commend them for, and that they will continue to work to heal the country so that you put the elections behind you and move forward, because as you know, there are many, many challenges that you need to tackle to say people united and determined to develop your country and address the many socio-economic difficulties that not only Sierra Leone, but indeed at this point, all African countries and indeed other developing countries are facing. Thank you.
There was one last question. He said, what if one party does not agree to the results? What would you do? What if one of the parties does not recognize the results? What would you do?
Perhaps just to add to what His Excellency Dr. Chambers has said about what happens when the observers lose. There is a great deal of commitment that Sierra Leone and Sierra Leone's democratic process and its stability, and there are several African regional organizations that are very committed to it. Sierra Leone is a representative at the Security Council. It presides over the APRM mechanism, and there is a good and abiding commitment to ensure that there is stability here in Sierra Leone. Indeed, when the observers leave, we have here already, we have the Council of Elders of Ecowas, led by President Jonathan, former President of Nigeria, President Ouedraogo, former President of Burkina Faso, who are here. The Council of the Wives, the English Council of the Wives, that Leone is here, and their precise mandate and responsibility is mediation. So they have been involved in prior to the elections and all of that, and they will be involved even when the observers, the role of course is to observe, may have left in the process of mediation if there is any need for that. So I think that there is a mechanism that could work even where the observers may have left, of course, in addition to all the local organizations that have already been mentioned.
Thank you very much. So we'll have to end it there. Once again, we have to thank the election mission for taking your questions. We have to thank them also for reading out their declarations to you. We appreciate all of you coming here, the observers, members of the press. We thank everyone for being part of this process. And while we look out for the results to be announced later, we just pray for peace and serenity to reign in Sierra Leone. Thank you all for coming, and cocktail itself outside.
She's been the building. See the African media that say So now not the time we for better we country, we for come together as a family, live in peace and harmony. So during this election, that's not an option. During this election, we don't want no tribal division. All we want for see, vote without violence. Vote in peace, vote without violence. Till the end they say, vote without violence. Vote in peace, vote without violence. Till the end they say, all we want for vote without violence. All we want for sin, all we want for sin without violence. Till the end they say, all we want for sin without violence. All we want for sin, all we want for sin.